Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, it's going to be a little bit different than what we do on prior videos. It's going to be more of a housing market rant. I'm just going to share some of the thoughts and feelings that I have about today's housing market, which hopefully it'll provide a little bit of insight and a little bit of perspective. In my view, there is a ton of noise and scary headlines right now taking place in the market. We've seen transactions have crashed dramatically from their peak. We're seeing home prices fall. We've seen mortgage rates double in the last year. This is scary news. It's impacting housing affordability overall, and it's really sidelining a lot of potential home buyers in today's market. And of course, that's for good reason, because for all intents and purposes, when you look at every key metric where you can measure whether or not housing market is cheap or expensive, it's safe to say that the market is relatively expensive right now. I mean, debt ratios are higher than they've ever been. Rent to value ratios are low. They don't look really good. Price to income ratios are distorted in most markets, especially in areas in the West. And then to top it all off, the consumer is also feeling the pinch with consumer credit. We're seeing credit levels rise, and this is all at a time where the federal funds rate has increased dramatically here over the last 12 months, driving interest rates on a credit card up to the highest they've, I think, ever been. They're sitting at about 19.1% on average. So the consumer is getting more and more tapped out. Housing is really expensive. And so how do you make sense of all this? From my perspective, we really need to focus on the deal, the reason why we're purchasing, and our personal finances. Let's start with why somebody would want to purchase real estate today, or why would they be getting interested in the housing market? Well, housing provides shelter, so we need a place to live. It can be an investment. Long-term, we know, statistically speaking, the net worth of a homeowner is like 10 times that of a renter. And homes are a lot of times where we form families and we raise children, we create memories. And so my point is that there's other reasons why you would want to own other than just financial. So it's really important to drill down on the why before we go out and we try to execute on that purchase. Then, of course, we need to focus on the deal. Now, I've mentioned this before, but it's important to reiterate. So every single market is different, and every segment of the market is going to vary as well. So let me explain. Like right now, there are markets in the West, places like Seattle, San Francisco, San Jose. They are seeing huge drops from peak to where we are today. Some of these markets are down 15, 20% already, which is a major impact, especially when you look at the national level. We're starting to see negative year-on-year growth in the median home price. And when you're just looking at that, you say, wow, now is not a great time to purchase. Don't catch a falling knife, right? But in reality, some of those markets, the median home price has become so wildly disconnected from the local wages that it is simply unaffordable for the average buyer to go in and purchase in those markets. And then if you combine that with the higher mortgage rates, affordability is getting crushed, and the housing market simply has to readjust and come back into some form of balance. Now, other markets across the country are feeling this pressure as well, but others are not. They're still affordable. And so you need to look at your market specifically and drill down on what a good deal would actually look like. So understand what an average deal sells for, what the median home price is, what the average price per square foot is. And then keep in mind is that a lot of these potential sellers that would generally be selling this time of year and trading up into a bigger house, they are sidelined right now. They're disincentivized to sell their property because they've locked into really low interest rates with their current mortgage. And they know that if they sell to harvest that equity and trade up, they're going to be looking at a much higher monthly mortgage payment. And the point that I'm trying to make here is that that housing inventory there is going to contain some really highly motivated sellers. And so if you understand what a good deal looks like in your market, you're looking at properties that have maybe been sitting on the market for 60 days or higher, have no offers, or something about them is unappealing, you have the ability to go in and try to negotiate an excellent price with absolutely great terms. While I will admit this is a very challenging market, it's gonna be hard to get a good deal, but like anything, it's gonna take reps. It's like if you get into the gym, you can't expect to become a bodybuilder in one day. You're gonna have to go to the gym a few times a week, change your nutrition, put in the work, get the reps, and eventually your body is going to transform. It's the same way when it comes to purchasing a home. So establish your criteria and then go out and you got to make lots of offers. And then the other thing that I want to touch on is personal finance, because it is so personal. So purchasing a home is generally our single largest investment. And it's super important, especially in today's market, to not overextend ourselves, because the housing market simply does have a lot of headwinds right now. And so we could, especially in the short term, we could see some more downward pressure on real estate prices. And that's simply not a great feeling. I remember when I purchased my first house in 2007, the market had dropped off dramatically shortly after I had actually made that purchase. And it stung. It was a really horrible feeling, and I don't wish that on anybody. But you got to remember that real estate is a long-term play. So if you're set up properly, you have a good emergency fund, you have stable employment, you can easily afford the monthly payments, and let's say you're putting a sizable amount of money down so you have a good equity position, then you should be able to weather any short-term fluctuations that we're seeing in the housing market. And then you just want to make sure you keep that long-term time horizon where you're looking out 7 to 10 years. And then you ask yourself, well, is the currency going to continue to be devalued? Will we continue to see inflation? I don't know how you feel about that. In my personal opinion, I think we're going to see that continue to unfold, which means that holding real estate over long periods of time will probably do very well. And in my view, we can never time the market perfectly. I'll give you a personal story. As I remember looking at the housing market back at the end of 2018 and early 2019 when mortgage rates were going up, and I thought, wow, gosh, real estate is so expensive right now. And when you look at some of these metrics, it actually was. But look what happened over the last 5 years. I mean, nobody could have predicted what happened with the pandemic. But in hindsight, I'm looking back, and anything that I would have purchased in my market would have nearly doubled in value over the last 5 years. And I'm not saying go out and speculate on where housing prices will be. You need to make sure that you set yourself up properly. You have a good financial footing. That deal, if you were to turn it into a rental, would it cash flow day one, or are you going to have a really large negative carry? Look at all of these factors and make sure that you're making the right decision for yourself. And if you're able to check all of those boxes, then now may be a really good time to be able to do that, and you will become a very successful homeowner. If you're unable to check some of those boxes, and right now to purchase that home would be a huge stretch, maybe you have to deploy all of your savings, or you're uncertain about where your job is going to be in the next 6 months to a year, then maybe right now may be a good time to consider sitting on the sidelines to see how this market unfolds. That's going to wrap it up for today's video. Hope you found the information useful. It's just a little bit of my perspective and what I see transpiring here in the housing market. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Take care. We'll see you on the next video.